Hello and welcome to Everywoman. I'm Shuli Ghosh. This week we're looking at the women of Nepal. Invisible in the eyes of the law, the Nepali women denied the right of citizenship. Widowed and forgotten, the wives of former Gurkhas left out in the cold by the British Army. And the child goddesses. We meet the little girls whose feet can never touch the ground. In Nepal, the recent election means the former rebels, the Maoists, are now in control. 33% of the new assembly are women, a big increase from the 4% who held seats before the election. But will it lead to a change in attitude towards women, regarded as low status among the majority Hindu population? Married women who don't want or can't have children, for instance, often face harsh treatment. Until recently, Nepali law allowed men to divorce their wives after 10 years of marriage if no children had been produced. Even now, childless women face severe discrimination. Everywoman went to Nepal to meet Devaki, a woman with first-hand experience of how painful the situation can be.
Devaki lives alone on the outskirts of Kathmandu, Nepal. The 41-year-old is married, but she hardly sees her husband. He left her because they could not have children.
When
you do not have a child, first your husband taunts you, calling you names and threatening that he would remarry. Then there are in-laws who keep telling you that a child is needed and he should be remarried. In the Lhasa society, people point their fingers. They say she is barren. She should not be given children to hold. They say she should not even see a child. That's why I never touch anyone's child.
Ironically, it's Devaki's husband and not Devaki who is infertile. In the hope of a son to carry on his lineage, her husband has remarried and lives far away. But the emotional and physical abuse is still fresh in Devaki's mind.
He used to beat me a lot. He would trap my neck on the sidebar of the bed, and with 2 fingers on my neck, he would try and strangle me.
Certain aspects of Hindu philosophy, they deal with domestic life, issue of procreation, having children, especially male children, who can then continue the lineage, and which is how one gets deliverance, moksha, at the end. So this is how the larger in the philosophical background, out of which I think certain laws regarding domestic life have been enacted.
Devaki is one of the many women in Nepal who have been suffering under the Hindu code. Until March 2006, Nepali law had a provision for men to divorce their wife if there were no children after 10 years of marriage.
He wanted me to give him a divorce, but I refused to. I was given divorce papers 4 times, but I did not take any of them.
Girls here are brought up with the saying that you have to go to live in your husband's house and survive there by pleasing them. So most women cannot even think about how they might survive after divorce.
Meera Dungana challenged Nepal's divorce law, claiming that the childlessness clause was discriminatory. The Supreme Court ruled in her favor, but the law is still far from perfect.
A husband is allowed to marry another woman if his wife cannot have a child. If the medical board proves that the reason for the couple's infertility is the woman, then the man is legally allowed to get married again, with the consent of his first wife. This agreement is often gained through coercion.
After her husband remarried, with Meera Dungana's help, Devaki filed a case against him for financial support. 2 years later, she has received some money, but not enough. She now makes bead necklaces for a living and has joined a local women's savings group. But she still feels nervous and uncertain about her future.
Let's see what happens, what chance falls on me. Perhaps all I can do is open a small shop and live here. What else can I do?
The discrimination faced by childless women there. And they're not alone. Retired Nepalese soldiers known as Gurkhas who fought with the British Army are also victims of unfair treatment. The British government recently improved pensions for Gurkhas who retired after 1997. But for the rest, there's little or no money. And in Nepal, one of the world's poorest countries with no state healthcare or social benefits, that means thousands of Gurkha widows are destitute. Everywoman's Rosie Garthwaite went to Nepal to meet some of those struggling to survive.
There is no such thing as life is easy with the British Army. It was just very difficult for me. I had lots of problems.
Trikala Thapa is 69. She's one of thousands of women who've been left to fend for themselves in Nepal. Her husband worked for the army for 9 years. When he came back from fighting in Asia, he was mentally ill. He never returned.
When he came back mad, nobody came to help, so we had to work. We planted in our fields. We had some cattle. We didn't have goats, but we had buffalo. That's how we survived. Because of his illness, he couldn't plow the fields, so we had to employ people. We had some fields which took 2 days to plow, but we had to divide it among our sons, and now we have nothing.
Every 3 months, Trikala walks for a whole day to pick up a handout from the Gurkha Welfare Trust.
We have to walk all the way to here from the house. We started walking at the break of dawn, walked all the way. People who find walking easy arrived there at 10, but we arrived here at midday. This is my daughter. She has come to accompany me as my friend. I had 12 children. 5 of them died. They were very weak. There was no food. There was nothing nutritious to eat.
The money Trikala receives does not come from the British Army. If her husband had been a British soldier, he would have qualified for a service pension after only 2 years. As it was, after 9 years' service, like thousands of others, he got nothing. The charity, the Gurkha Welfare Scheme, gives Trikala $25 every 3 months. Unlike the UK, there is no free healthcare in Nepal. This is a rare chance for the pensioners to see a doctor.
I treat about 100 pensioners a day. If the pensioners didn't come here to the charity, they'd have to travel about another day to the next hospital and pay for their treatment. There are war injuries and bullet injuries.
But even those who do qualify for a pre-1997 British service pension still struggle to maintain their standard of living. Bhumi Pun travelled the world with her husband, who was in the army for 15 years.
Initially, when we went from the village to Hong Kong, it was kind of strange, but later we got to educate our kids, found friends, and it was quite nice. Most of the women's husbands would be out, so we were all like one big family.
Bhumi's husband, Chet Pun, qualified for a pension when he left the army in 1996.
The pension wasn't enough to feed ourselves. With 4 kids, it is very difficult to pay for their schooling. That is why we had to go out to work. He became a security guard in Afghanistan. 2 of them got kidnapped by an armed group. 1 of them got out because he paid. We couldn't pay, so they killed him.
When he died, the pension was immediately cut for Bhumi Pun and her 4 children.
The rent is $50, but by the time you pay for electricity, water and other things, it is more like $75. The pension is only $85. His death made a huge difference because there's no one to earn. I can't even think about before. It's too hard.
But unlike Bhumi Pun, who gets a British Army widow's pension, there are 5,000 women like Trikala who only qualify for the Gurkha charity pension. Some of them walk for up to 6 days to get the handout.
Make sure you give something to the person who carried you here. They deserve it.
They feel abandoned by the British Army after years of looking after their family, both at home and abroad.
No one came to help after he came back. I was told that he served for 9 years and 4 months. I did get married to a soldier in the British Army, but it was no help to me. I suffered a lot. I'm almost dying and I don't know when the pension is going to be raised. Even to come here to get a pension is so difficult.
Well, the Gurkhas and their widows continue to put pressure on the British government, so far to little effect. After the break, lost childhoods or privileged princesses? We meet the living goddesses of Kathmandu.